Chair. I want to continue on what I was talking about earlier, and that has to do with the way in which we regulate or don't at the federal level, the need to pull together the various federal agencies so that they're all working together early on in the process. Just for a heads up, the U.S. military has a lot of bases around. They're required by law to reach out to the Native American communities, which they usually do at the end of the process, which then creates lawsuits and other kinds of delays. So I'm looking at ways in which we can have the federal government engage earlier in a coordinated way. I ran out of time last time, so if you could come back with your best ideas about how that could be done across the board, Army Corps of Engineers, military, EPA, and the like. One of you early on in your testimony indicated the length of time it takes to process any application. Unfortunately, right now it's a 5-year period of time that an applicant, once approved, stands. We're looking at extending that to a 10-year period of time. So if you are able to obtain a permit, that permit is good for 10 years, considering that it takes 5 years just to get started on the next project. And so we're looking at that. I draw that to the attention of the committee and for your review of it. And if you like it, let us know. We hope to move that. Also, we would hope that we could reauthorize the NEP this year, at least no later than next year, so that in 21 arrives, we're good to go, and more money. So just a couple of questions for you that you might want to respond to. How could we better coordinate? I think I cut you off. Puget Sound got cut off in the middle of that. We never got to San Francisco or beyond, so.
Sure. HR 2247, introduced by Congressman Heckin-Kilmer, includes an idea, I think, aimed at exactly what you're saying, sir. It would require the creation of a federal task force that includes the military, as well as EPA, NOAA, the Corps, the usual suspects. Requires them to come together, create an action plan, working with us, the state, and with our tribes early in the process to identify actions that the federal government will undertake. And it also requires regular reporting on their progress and outcomes. So I'm very excited about that possibility.
I think that was done early on in the Everglades, like in the 1990s, that task
Oh, really?
force.
Okay, yeah.
But that would apply across the nation or just for Puget Sound?
This bill just applies to Puget Sound, but I could imagine it having benefit across the nation.
Well, let's back to San Francisco.
Yes, so I've had an opportunity to talk about our regulatory integration team, and just to make one further point there, you know, what we of course often see is that regulators have timelines, but those timelines commence when the application is deemed quote unquote complete. And often that's where the delay occurs, with back and forth until that completion is deemed ready. So in our new efforts, you know, we are hoping the regulators will work to make sure the application is complete, to get those clocks running, and we're putting timelines in place that measure performance from the submission of the application, not necessarily from the date of completion. So I think that's an area where we want to see improvement.
As I mentioned earlier, we have some dual responsibilities as it relates to permitting. The state of Wisconsin and the U.S. Corps of Engineers have a dual permitting process, so it's one-stop shopping. When you put your permit in, we act as the agent and coordinate with the U.S. Corps of Engineers. EPA in our region is in Chicago. We hold quarterly meetings on enforcement issues related to actions that we're taking, actions that they're taking, whether they're in the state of Wisconsin. And so we collaborate. I'm blessed to have the previous secretary for the DNR being the regional administrator in Chicago for the EPA, so we spend a lot of time having conversations as well.
Another thing I draw the attention to is a nationwide process rather than a regional Corps of Engineer issue here is really important, particularly with regard to Native American sites, that there be a nationwide program. That is that was in process. It's now been delayed. We'll see if we can move that along. Thank you very much. Draw your attention once again to H.R. 1764 that extends the deadline or the permit from 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Mr. Lowenthal, would you have any additional questions, sir?